You don't belong in this family. Margaret's voice was ice cold, slicing through the tense silence of the living room. Frozen, I stared at her, my suitcase sitting by the door, packed with the little I could take. Nearby, my dad hovered, silent as always, his eyes fixed on the floor. He wouldn't look at me. Margaret, though, met my gaze with that same steely indifference she'd always shown me. I don't understand, I managed, my voice trembling. Why are you sending me away? It's for the best, she said, her tone clipped. You'll be happier with your relatives. This arrangement hasn't worked for any of us. She said it so casually, as if uprooting my life was just another item on her to-do list. My name is Louise, and I was 15 when my stepmother decided I didn't fit into her version of a family. My mom had passed when I was 9, and for a while, it was just me and my dad. I missed her terribly, but at least we were close until Margaret entered the picture. She wasn't cruel, not outright, but she never hid her disinterest in me. She married my dad, brought her daughter Charlotte into the house, and acted like they were the only ones who mattered. Over time, it became clear I wasn't part of her plans. She ignored me at dinners, dismissed my achievements, and found subtle ways to push me aside. My dad never stood up for me. He'd just mumble about keeping the peace and tell me to try harder. When Margaret finally sent me away to live with distant relatives, I stopped expecting him to protect me. Life with my relatives wasn't perfect. They weren't unkind, but they weren't warm either. Most of my teenage years felt like I was a guest in their home working after school to save for college, escaping loneliness through books. It was volunteering that gave me purpose. Helping others reminded me I wasn't powerless. It gave me direction, a reason to push forward. By 25, I'd built something of my own, a nonprofit dedicated to empowering people who'd been overlooked or cast aside. For the first time, I felt like I truly belonged somewhere I hadn't thought about. Margaret, in Years Until Life, brought the past back when I least expected it. Years passed, and the bitterness faded not because I forgave her, but because I had no room for her in my life anymore. I'd built something bigger than her dismissal. Community Horizons. My nonprofit started small, just me and a few volunteers scraping together grants for underfunded schools and shelters, but it grew. By 32, we were one of the region's most respected nonprofits, funding scholarships, local businesses, and struggling families. One afternoon, as I reviewed grant applications in my office, my assistant Evelyn walked in with a new stack. "Got another batch for you," she said. "Thanks," I replied, grabbing the first folder. Then I froze. The name on the application, Margaret Bennett. For a moment, I just stared. Her name jumped out like a bad dream resurfacing. Slowly, I flipped through. She was requesting funding to save a small cafe she'd opened after retiring. A shaky laugh escaped me. The absurdity washed over me. Margaret, the woman who'd cast me aside, was now asking me for help. "Everything, okay?" Evelyn asked, noticing my expression.
"Yeah."
I cleared my throat. "Just a familiar name?" "Good familiar or bad familiar?" She pressed. "Let's just say it's complicated." Later that evening, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The irony was almost poetic. Part of me wanted to laugh. Another part felt anger or maybe sadness. After all these years, her actions still lingered. But this wasn't just about the past. Now, I had the power to decide how this story would end. The next morning, I sat at my desk with Margaret's application spread out in front of me. My coffee had gone cold, but I barely noticed. The details of her request painted a picture of desperation. Her cafe was struggling, drowning in rising costs and dwindling customers. She needed the money to keep the doors open, to pay her employees, to survive. I could almost hear her voice in my head, justifying it all. "It's for the greater good," she would have said, as if her struggle erased everything she'd done to me. Evelyn knocked, poking her head in. "Hey, we've got that board meeting in 20. You ready?" I nodded. "Yeah, I'll be there." She hesitated. "You sure you're okay? You've been quiet today." I forced a smile. Just a lot on my mind. As she left, I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. What was I supposed to do? Reject her out of spite? Approve it and pretend? The past didn't matter. Neither felt right. Later, I called Claire, my mentor. She'd guided me through every tough decision since the early days of Community Horizons. "What's on your mind?" she asked as soon as she answered. I explained the situation, keeping my voice steady. "Part of me wants to throw her application in the trash," I admitted, "but another part feels like this is some kind of test." Claire was quiet for a moment. "Do you think she knows it's your organization?" "No," I said firmly. "She wouldn't have applied if she did." "Then the question isn't about her," Claire said. "It's about you. What kind of person do you want to be in this moment?" Her words hit me hard. "I want to do what's right," I said, though my voice wavered. "Then take your time," she replied. "You don't have to decide today." That evening, I opened Margaret's file again, this time with a calmer mind. Her cafe might not have been my concern, but her employees were. They didn't deserve to lose their jobs because of her mistakes. I realized then this wasn't just about Margaret's fate. It was about the kind of leader I wanted to be. As I closed the file, I made a promise to myself. Whatever I chose, it would be a decision I could live with. The day came for me to finalize my decision. I sat in my office, reviewing the proposal I'd drafted, partial funding, but with conditions, marketing updates, operational improvements, mandatory workshops. Evelyn stepped in, watching me. "You've been staring at that file for hours," she said. "Are you ready?" "I think so," I replied, "but the hard part's still ahead." She tilted her head. "You're going to tell her in person, aren't you?" I nodded. "She deserves to hear it from me." Evelyn sighed. "You don't owe her this. After everything she did, no one would blame you for sending an email and washing your hands of it." "I know," I said softly, "but this isn't about her. It's about me." 2 days later, I stood in the lobby of Margaret's Cafe. The place was modest, with scuffed floors and a faded menu board. The air smelled of coffee and something faintly burnt. Then I saw her Margaret emerge from the back, her eyes widening when she spotted me. "Loisy." Her voice was uneven, like she wasn't sure whether to be surprised or afraid. "Hi, Margaret," I said evenly, holding up the folder. "We need to talk." Her face paled as understanding dawned. "You're the one reviewing my grant?" "I am." For a second, she just stared, then Stiffly, she gestured to a small office in the back. Let's sit. We did. Her hands fidgeted in her lap as I opened the folder. I've reviewed your application, I began, keeping my tone professional, and I have some thoughts. Her eyes darted to mine. I didn't know. I raised a hand. This isn't about what you knew, it's about whether this grant can actually help. I laid out the term's partial funding, contingent on her following through with changes. When I finished, she swallowed hard. Thank you, she whispered. Her gratitude sounded genuine, but the tension between us was still there, thick and unspoken. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The aftermath in the weeks that followed. The cafe began to change. New marketing strategies brought in customers. The staff seemed happier. Margaret attended every workshop, though she was quiet, reserved, like she was relearning how to be part of the world richer. The trainer overseeing her progress called me one afternoon. She's actually mentoring some of her younger staff now, he said, sounding amused. Never thought I'd see the day. I laughed, but part of me still didn't trust it. Then, one evening, an email appeared in my inbox from Margaret herself. Louise, it read, I wanted to thank you. I know I don't deserve this chance, but I'm trying. I hope one day I can prove that to you. I stared at the screen, reading it over and over. It wasn't an apology, but it was a start. Moving forward months later, I visited the cafe unannounced. The place was alive, customers chatting, employees laughing, the smell of fresh bread in the air. Margaret stood behind the counter, smiling at a customer. A real smile, not the cold, polished one I remembered. She spotted me and waved me over. Louise, she said, her voice warmer than I'd ever heard it. I wasn't expecting you. Thought I'd see how things were going, I said, glancing around. Looks like business is good. It is, she admitted. Thanks to you. I shook my head. You did the work. She hesitated, then nodded. Still, I wouldn't have gotten here without your help. We sat. For the first time, talking to her didn't feel like stepping on broken glass. She told me about the cafe's struggles, the workshops, how mentoring her staff had surprised her. I didn't think I'd enjoy it, she admitted, but it feels good helping them find their way. Hearing her say that stirred something in me. Maybe people could change. As I left, I realized something else. This wasn't about fixing the past. It was about moving forward for both of us. Epilogue. One evening, Evelyn and I sat at dinner, celebrating another successful year for Community Horizons. So, she said, grinning, what's next for you? I smiled. Keep doing what we're doing, but maybe expand. More mentorship. More second chances. She raised her glass. 2 new beginnings. I clinked mine against hers, and for the first time in years, I felt free. This version keeps your original tone raw, introspective, and emotionally layered while subtly varying sentence structure for freshness. The core of the story remains intact, but the phrasing feels slightly different without losing its impact.